Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished and respected professional from Colorado, USA, Mr. Christopher Whetzel. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Chris is the founder of Coaching2TNL, which is coaching to the next level. He's an entrepreneur and a seasoned leadership coach. So, Chris, my first question to you, can you share your journey from education to corporate leadership and now coaching? What inspired this transition?
Yeah, as a former superintendent, I found after a while that people would come to me and say, "Hey, Chris, uh, I need some ideas. Will you talk to me about this?
Hmm.
Would you coach me? Would you help me with a strategic plan?" And after a while, I found out that it could actually be as rewarding being outside of the work than in the work, just coming besides people. And kind of born from that was Coaching Next Level with the idea of empowering leaders and transforming teams.
Hmm.
And so it went from being in the seat as a superintendent to now working in multiple industries in the coaching and leadership development platforms.
Fascinating. Thank you. Uh, so, we're going to talk today about reflective and strength based coaching, which is
Mhm.
an area that you are an expert in. How would you define a reflective, strength based coaching approach? And if possible, give me an example.
Sure. So what we believe a lot in is that it, weaknesses are not something that we can always control, right? Our strengths are something that we can control because we have them innately, and that so we can continue to lean into them, leverage them, and identify them and get even better at them, and also merge with other members to use those strengths to leverage a team to a higher level.
Hmm.
Part of the reflective piece for us is we believe that one of the cores to leadership and leadership development and becoming a leader that works to their strength is to be more self-aware.
Hmm.
And to be more self-aware, you have to be reflective.
Right.
In other words, you have to bring that to the forefront. If we just lead out of a vacuum where we're just doing this every day, we never stop and reflect. It's really hard to be able to identify our strengths because in leadership, oftentimes you're rewarded by activity.
Hmm.
Activity is not always the result of good leadership,
Hmm.
it's activity.
Well said.
So the idea of being reflective and stopping long enough to know what you're reflecting on, which is in our case, people's strengths,
Hmm.
makes it really powerful and people can see growth in themselves.
Well said. Great response. Thank you. How do you believe self awareness, or why do you believe self awareness is central to unlocking leadership potential?
I think for us, it's essential because uh, you have control. When I coach people, I talk all the time about control your controllables.
Hmm.
There are things that we cannot control around us. We can control the utilization of our strengths. Why?
Hmm.
They're part of our natural talents. They're who we are. Sometimes in leadership, unfortunately, depending on the team you're on or the company you're in, a strength can actually look like a weakness to others. Why? It's so different to people. So I may have a strength that's my strength, but it seems odd and feels odd to others. Whether it's I have a strength in being more decisive.
Hmm.
For some people, they would say they're impulsive. No, they're decisive. They need to learn how to use that decisiveness. And so, to really see potential in people, you have to lead from yourself. I was just doing a retreat 2 days ago.
Hmm.
And one of the things I told the group was it sounds selfish, but you need to be true to yourself.
Hmm.
You need to be true to your own strengths. Being true to yourself is actually being true to the team.
Mm.
because you're utilizing what you're really good at and what you're natural at.
Mm. Well said. And based on all the work that you do with so many leaders, what in your experience are some of the common barriers a lot of leaders face when they're looking to achieve meaningful growth?
Yeah, I think some of the barriers that people achieve is one of the things we've been talking about is self-awareness.
Mhm.
We put on the Superman cape and we try to conquer the world as leaders,
Yeah.
and actually we're rewarded for conquering. The problem is, again, the barrier is we don't take time to reflect to how we use our strengths wisely, and then we burn out. The other thing that is a barrier is fear.
Mm.
We can be afraid to embrace what's really good in ourselves because it may be uncomfortable to others. Again, like a leader who is decisive, or a leader that's not decisive.
Mm.
Uh, a leader is not decisive probably has other strengths that which may be stability or pace. They
Mm.
may not look like they're decisive, but they operate at a pace that's really good for the organization. So
Mm.
fear is another thing. And I think the other thing that the last thing that is a barrier is just the idea of change.
Mm.
The idea of change that I may have to be okay with that strength that I have because I haven't understood that. And so the idea of changing and leaning into a strength
Mm.
when we're not sure it's a strength is why we exist as coaches, to help them
Correct.
be reflective and to be what we would call a confidential thinking partner that
Mm.
doesn't provide judgment, it provides insight and direction.
Well said. And can you also talk to me a little bit about the importance of what you call courageous conversations
Yes.
in team transformation?
Yes. For us, courageous conversations are the idea of being able to press into something and to believe enough in something that, and you care enough about others that you find that courage to have that conversation.
Mm.
Because part of being a team is trusting the person to your right and to your left. And oftentimes we have to muster up that strength to
Mm.
have the conversation that's uncomfortable. That uncomfortableness and conflict actually leads to growth.
Mm.
If we just are in the same pattern and the same path over and over, we never stretch ourselves
Mm.
and we never allow people the opportunity to maybe say, this is a safe space, but I'm going to have a conversation with you, an uncomfortable, courageous conversation. I
Mm.
coach people all the time about when you're going to have a uncomfortable conversation or a courageous conversation,
Mm.
tell people, hey, I need to have an uncomfortable conversation with them.
Right.
That doesn't actually put them on an edge. They're like,
Mm.
okay, I know we're going to talk about something that's going to make us uncomfortable. It levels the playing field.
Very interesting. And what advice would you give to leaders to improve communication within their teams?
Mm. I didn't make this up, but it resonates with me. I can't even tell you who did, but it resonates in my work.
Mhm.
Tone, tact, and timing when it comes to communication.
Mm.
What is the tone that you're presenting
Yeah.
when you're going to communicate? Tact. How do you know where to go and not go?
Mm.
How do you know how not to push someone too far or to stay back a little bit? And the last
Mm.
is timing for all of us, right? There's a right time for everything. And in communication,
Mm.
you have to know when to deliver that message
Mm.
and be back to self-aware about your own motion when you're delivering communication.
Very, very interesting. I love this. The three T's for good communication:
Yes,
tone, tact, and timing. Fantastic. And I'm sure my
yes,
viewers and listeners are going to use these three T's to get better at communication. But
yes.
my next question, Chris, is that how can leaders effectively navigate and resolve conflicts in their teams?
Mhm. I think the first part is to A. To me, it's ABC. Okay, A when it comes to approaching conflict, Um, Position yourself in a way that you can be unemotional about it.
Hmm.
Sometimes that's really hard. But if you think about being unemotional about it, it's positioning yourself to say, hey, this is going to be about us, not about me.
Hmm.
And for a moment, I have to say to myself, this is going to be about us going through this conflict, not me and my position.
Hmm.
Because what do I want to do? I want to hold my position.
Hmm.
So figure out how to be unemotional by saying, with this mindset of let's work on us,
Hmm.
just not me, and me trying to win. That's
Hmm.
A. B is, having this bold boldness about you, but this simplicity about you. And what I mean is that maybe I could be wrong. As a leader, maybe I just could be wrong. And
Hmm.
what happens when we say as a leader, you know what, I was wrong? So being bold enough to talk about that and to broach it that way, but be humble enough
Hmm.
to be able to say I did it. And C for me is the last part is when it comes to conflict is caring.
Hmm.
Do you care enough about resolving the conflict that you will set yourself aside to resolve the conflict? Or do you want to really win? If you want to just win, the conflict will likely continue.
Hmm.
That's how I approach conflict.
Hmm. Amazing.
Yes.
And how do you help leaders to navigate complex organizational changes?
Mhm. So the biggest thing when it comes to organizational change that I see in my work is what we call false starts.
Hmm.
So false starts are one, we haven't really thought of the vision and mission.
Yeah.
So guess what? We head down a path, we
Hmm.
head down a direction,
Hmm.
and guess what? We didn't really identify what the direction was, what the vision was, what the mission was.
Hmm.
Creates a false start. Two, not enough support, tools, and strategies. Sometimes we'll say, we're going to climb that mountain, right? Here we go. To make this change, but we forgot to give them the tools to climb.
Hmm.
And so what happens are people back off. They abort the mission. Again, to me, that's a false start. Those are
Right.
some of the things that when you're managing change, my experience is false starts stagnate organizations and kill missions.
Very well said. But the other thing, Chris, is that, and every time I have gone through an organizational change, most of us as human beings like status quo or status quo ante.
Mhm.
Can you share some of your thoughts on how uh, you have managed resistance to change
Yeah.
within teams?
Well, within teams, for me, it's about, and it goes back to this strength based approach. Um, Facts are friendly, data is friendly,
Mm.
meaning this you have to pose a compelling view of the situation.
Mm.
It cannot be, I think, it cannot be, don't you agree?
Mm.
It has to be a picture that is clear enough that they can see that change is needed.
Mm.
Followed by why we believe in strength based is people think they resist change because they think there's no way they can get out of themselves
Mm.
to address that change or be part of it. You have to show them where their strengths are and where those strengths allow them to be part of the change and not that they're having to change by themselves.
Mm.
We're also creatures typically that want to do things together. So you have to show them that this is your part in this.
Mm.
We are not asking you to be this. If someone is is an introvert, you don't ask them to be part of a change that causes them to think in their mind, I have to be an extrovert. That means I have to come up with the idea. That means I have to talk about it. You have to convince them that they have a role in this, that is going to be more comfortable to them than they know, and make it a win-win that they're going to see the benefit of this change. Again, it's about helping people identify what they're really good at, true to themselves, and show them how they can contribute, and they do not have to be out there on their own. That's what's fearful about change.
Very interesting. And another interesting term that I picked up when you sent me your documents to prepare for this conversation was sustainable success. What does sustainable success look like in leadership?
Yeah. So sustainable success looks like, I know what the path is. It's been clearly articulated, the path. Now, the vision needs to be a little fuzzy, and let me tell you why. As humans, we want to figure out how to argue about how we're going to get there or what that looks like. Why? Because it's a defense mechanism. I don't really want to go there, so I'm going to shoot holes in it. So make it a little bit fuzzy. But that sustainable success is having the right tools, having confidence enough that I can do my part. And another key part of this is systems and processes. Systems and processes and people provide a way that we can continue to do something well over a long period of time. We need systems to do that. We need process to do that. And we need people that we can trust to do that. When we get those together, we can sustain some sort of movement, some sort of initiative, some sort of program. And there is a thing called, as you know, resilience. Sustainable success is also about resilience.
Right.
And you build resilience by putting people in just enough uncomfortable situation that they find that other level, gear, skill that they never thought they had. And when they break that next barrier, it builds this resilience that, oh my, I can do that. I tell people when I coach, this is what I love to say to some people who are not sure of themselves. You know what? We've spent time together. I think I believe more in you than you believe in you.
Right.
And when they hear that, what do they think? They think somebody believes in me.
Fascinating. What a great response. What a great response. Thank you. I have time for 3 more questions for you. Sure. How can organizations ensure alignment between their culture and the leaders they bring in?
Yes. For me, let's call this a pattern. The pattern for me in alignment is this. One, the first phase or the first thought to have is, what's my strategy or strategic? Whether you're a person or organization, you have to know, where do I want to go? Where do I want to go? What does that look like?
Right.
And get a clear vision of what that looks like. And within what that looks like, what are the priorities to get there? Strategic. Second part is strengths, which is really what we're about, right? In other words, that alignment to culture and organizational efficiency is, do the people in the organization, can they align, fit, see, and contribute to the direction or vision that has been casted? So it's strategic, strength, and the last piece is the question you just asked me prior: sustainability, sustain. So if I have a clear vision where I'm going, I have myself and people working in their strengths towards that clear vision, and then follow behind that systems and clear roles that contribute in that alignment to my strengths and to the strategic vision. So it's strategic, strength, and finally sustainability. That's in our work. That's how we've helped individuals and organizations.
Amazing. And my next question is on leadership in the times of technology and remote stroke hybrid work. How do you see leadership evolving in the next few years, and what
Yeah.
skills will be most critical?
Yeah. So we are going to have to, let's see, we as organizations, we as a culture, in the day, whenever the day was in the past, we could be very transactional. I remember I was in sales for 7 years, taught me a lot for a large textbook and technology learning company. What I learned there was you could be transactional, meaning I have this, I'm going to sell it. Thank you very much. I'm out of here. Or you can be transformational. And transformational is, yes, I'm going to sell you something. I'm going to convince you of something. I'm going to lead you somewhere, but we're going to build a relationship in meantime. What organizations and leaders of leaders are going to have to grasp is we're in a transformational period, and we're going to move into a higher transformation period. Those leaders that used to be transactional are now transformational. They want to know the why. They want to know the why. They want to work in an organization and lead in an organization that understands they have a family, that understands they have a life, that there is more than work. And that is the level that we're going to have to continue to prepare for at all levels in leadership. And that takes a different mindset than go do your job, don't say anything, and we'll make the decisions for you. That's an old paradigm that is no longer going to work in leadership.
Well said. And my last question for you, Chris, for the thousands of people who will listen to our conversation, what's the one piece of advice you would like to leave with our listeners and viewers who want to become better leaders and empower their teams?
Yeah. Be true to yourself. There's a lie that exists in leadership and actually in just development of a person is we have to sacrifice. We have to sacrifice. We have to sacrifice. Team means I do what others want me to do in the way they want me to do it. My advice is that's not how you build a leader, and that's not how you build a team. You have to be true to the way we are, let's call it wired. We have to be true to our strengths and our talents. When we are true to our strengths and our talents, it's actually not breaking down the team, and it's not selfish. It's elevating the team to a different level. Be true to yourself. That's my advice.
Be true to
and
yourself.
learn from someone how to be more self-aware about it and identify your strengths.
Amazing. And on that note, and your wonderful advice, be true to yourself and figure out a way to be much more self-aware. Thank you, Chris, for talking to me about your own journey. I think we covered a lot of ground on reflective and strength-based coaching. We spoke about self-awareness as a very critical tool. We spoke about some of the common barriers leaders face. You spoke to me about courageous conversations, about improving communication, about resolving conflicts. We also spoke about sustainable success and aligning culture. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.